The only real God is the one that you believe in. Start looking for the God in others. And if you find you're tuning into a wave, well then I don't know much about being saved.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, friends.
Welcome into another episode of Spiritual Philosophy Chatter with the Joneses. I'm Danny Jones.
And I am Samantha Jones.
And here we are, episode 113.
113.
These are good numbers.
Yes, 11 and 13.
Yes.
Yes.
What is our topic for 113?
This is breaking free from social conditioning.
I like this one.
I do too. Yeah, this
Cool.
is going to be good.
Awesome. Well, before we hop into it, do you have anything you want to share from last week?
I do. Last week we did Celebrating Pride Month for the month of June.
Yep.
Because it is Pride Month. And we received this email. This is from a listener and a regular client of mine, but she prefers to remain anonymous when I read this email.
Okay.
It says, I really enjoyed this episode on Gay Pride Month. I'm asking you to keep this anonymous because this isn't known about me to anyone but now you guys. I have struggled with my sexuality my whole life. I have always felt attracted to both men and women. I can remember being 11 years old and wondering why I had to pick only boys to date. I'm 58 years old now and have been married to the same man since I was 19. I love him very much, but I have always felt something is missing. I don't think there is much I can do about this at my age, but who knows? As of right now, I feel like I will die wondering what life would have been like if I would have only explored a little of what I have been feeling inside all these years. I appreciate you both being so open and willing to talk about these sometimes controversial topics. It helps me to see things from a different angle, and I have grown so much since I started listening to your show.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yes.
That was cool.
That had to be hard to write, to actually get that out. But it probably felt really good for her, too, to get that off of her chest, to finally say that to somebody, even if it is just us,
Sure.
But yeah, one of the things that she said in there was hard for me to swallow, and that's that she's going to die wondering what life would have been like. And, there's always a solution to everything. And if something is meant to be in your life, it'll be. And I'm not saying get a divorce. I'm not saying anything like that. But things happen later in life,
Yeah.
Maybe when your spouse is gone.
Right.
Or maybe this is something to talk to your spouse about. Maybe they're the one that you should talk to and say, hey, I'm having these feelings. And yeah, I get that, I'm almost 60 years old, but I still want to explore these things in my life. And who knows, maybe he'll be like, hey, great, let's do this. We can do this together. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
So you just enjoy your life. But I think the last thing that any of us want is to go to our deathbed with regret.
Yeah, I mean, is it better to have lived than not lived? I question that, and vice versa.
Right.
That question comes up. Or is it better to have not lived than lived? I don't know. It's a personal choice.
Yeah.
And I think that the older I get, and I've noticed this in the people that I've known in my life that have shared with me, like, do it while you can.
Right.
It doesn't mean go rob a bank.
Right.
But you know what I mean? The things that you desire and that you're dreaming of, do it while you can.
Yeah. We were having this discussion last night because, I'm up really early in the morning. And so I like to go to sleep early, sometimes by 9. And I'm called Grandma. Maybe earlier. Okay. And I'm called Grandma Jones for that sometimes, which is fine because I understand. But lately I've been thinking a lot about how, I'm almost in my mid-40s, and it's not going to get any easier as I get older for me to stay up later and to do things that, people do at night. And so I should do those things now. I should stop worrying about getting a good night's sleep. I'm not saying we shouldn't have good night's sleep.
Right.
But I should stop worrying about, how much sleep I'm going to get and how I'm going to feel the next day. Because when I was in my 30s, I didn't care about that. I could function on 4 hours of sleep. But now I worry so much about how I'm going to feel the next day that I don't want to stay up late,
Right.
But I said to you YOLO, and you were like, well, no, technically it's not YOLO because we do live more than once. But we only live this life once. And I definitely want to make sure that I get to the end of this life saying that I experienced as much of what I wanted to experience as I possibly could. Mm-hmm. I think that's important for all of us to do. That's what this life is for.
Yes.
We're not meant to just sit around and dream about things and never make them come true. Mm-hmm. We're supposed to dream about them and make them come true, no matter how big or small they are.
Yeah.
I mean, big or small.
Just another test, I think, to show you of what you're capable of manifesting in your own life.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. If you really want something, you can manifest it. I think one of the biggest parts of that is just believing that you can manifest it. Mm-hmm. And once you believe that this is something that could actually be brought to you, your life can change.
Yeah.
So to our anonymous listener, that is good advice too. Manifest it.
Yeah.
The universe brings you things that you want at the right time. I agree. So I hope that there we go.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you, Anonymous.
That was really cool.
Yes. And then we have 2 questions that we answer every week. So let's answer this week's questions.
Okay.
These are both about animals this week. The first one is from Sherry. She asked, when pets reincarnate, can they come back in the opposite sex they were before? And can they come back as a different animal? For example, if they were a dog in this life, can they return as a cat? Thank you. It's my belief, and from what I see from animals on the other side and what I've been told, is that they can come back as any animal that they want. I mean, most of the time a pet's going to come back as a pet. So they might stay within the categories of, dog, cat, bird, whatever kind of animals you want. That's what I've come to realize, is that these animals reincarnate into whatever we want at the time.
Right.
So, like, I've had ferrets many, many years ago, and I had birds, and I have dogs now. I've always had dogs, but what is it going to be next? Maybe one of my animals might come back as a chicken, because I've always wanted chickens or ducks. Yeah. One day I'll have my chickens and ducks. So maybe one of my ferrets will come back as a chicken, They stay with you, but they have to stay within the same energy. This was one of the things that we sat down and kind of asked my mom and analyzed at first, was how does this work with the reincarnation? Can animals come back as people and vice versa? And no, because the energy that it takes to fulfill a human soul, a human body, is a human soul. It's it's a lot of energy. And an animal is less energy. It's a smaller soul. So it's a different kind. It's a soul, but it's a different kind.
It's just different.
It's different energy.
Yeah.
So, but that energy couldn't, like a dog energy couldn't drive a human body.
Right.
So you tend to stay within the same areas.
There's some level of complexity to the energy, maybe. We don't know.
We don't know.
Truth is, we really don't. But
yeah.
Based on what we have asked your mom and what I've read, it feels like animals stay animals, humans stay humans.
Yes. And I do believe they can come back as any sex. I
don't think that matters.
No, and breed. And this is something, too, that I tell my clients when they have an animal that is going to reincarnate back to them, is that they can ask for what they want. Like our chocolate lab Sequoia, we're waiting for her to reincarnate back to us. And I've asked for a female Great Dane, black and white. And so that's what we're expecting. Mm-hmm. And so I've asked for that.
Right.
So we'll see when that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But you can ask for it. So don't be afraid to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good question.
So, yes, Sherry, thank you for that question.
Thanks, Sherry.
And then the next question is from Kathy. Sorry about the snoring dogs, by the way. You can definitely hear it more in this studio than you could in the other studio.
We're a bit closer.
Yeah, we're much closer. Sabbath's head is literally like less than a foot from me. Okay, so from Kathy, she says, so if you have a pet who has passed, are they able to talk to you from the other side in English, in clairaudience, meaning that I can hear them? Would it be my pet if she never spoke English or spoke at all? So I understand what she's saying. So the language that animals use is telepathy, which isn't, I don't know really how to explain it. It's not really a language. but I classify it as that because I'm translating to you. They're speaking to me in their language, and I'm translating it to you in English. I hear, because I speak English, I do hear the messages that come into me in English. Even if it's a person and they didn't speak English in their life, they'll still talk to me in English because that's what I understand. They'll talk to me in the language that they spoke sometimes as well, so I know that they spoke another language.
Right.
But yeah, so it's...
You did have like the one time the Chihuahua spoke Spanish to you.
Yes.
But that was to let you know this particular dog was from where it was from.
Yes, well, that
it was from a Spanish-speaking family.
Exactly.
So not that it knew you could understand Spanish, because you couldn't.
Right, exactly.
It just did it like as a confirmation.
Yes, exactly. So when the animals talk to me in words, then yes, I hear them in English. I don't hear them in some random language that I have to translate. But it is a telepathic communication, so that's really
more images, messages. Yes,
and the fact that I don't know how to explain it, but language isn't really a barrier except to people. It's not something that they're on the other side going, well, she speaks English, so we need to translate this for her. It just is the way that it works. Right. So yeah. So I hope that answers your question. Yes. So thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
And thank you, Sherry, for your questions.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's what I have for you from last week.
Awesome. Well then, episode 113.
113.
Breaking free from social conditioning.
Last week we were setting up for the show. Well, you were setting up for the show, and I was outside with the dogs. And all of a sudden I got this idea for this week's show. And I was like, I'm going to forget this. And so I texted it to you. And I had forgot that I texted it to you. And then you looked at it after the show and you read it. I was like, that's it. That's next week's episode. Because I kind of got the idea because I had done a reading for somebody earlier in that day. And a lot of the things that they were telling me that they couldn't fix about their life, or they felt they couldn't fix about their life, are things that are a problem because of social conditioning. It's not because of how things really are. It's because of what we've been taught, what, society has told us is the norm. Right. And so that's where I got this episode from. Right. Originally, I thought that this was going to be, I called it the social norms, but social norms ended up being something completely different. Social norms are things we do, like saying bless you and hoping the door open for people. So I had put up on
shaking hands.
Yeah, exactly. I had put up on the page that we were going to be talking about social norms, and no, that's not what we ended up talking about.
Right.
It's called social conditioning. But when these things come to me, I don't always know exactly where they're going, and this episode is a good key point in that. So, but let's start with, what is social conditioning? So social conditioning is the process of training individuals in a society to respond in a manner generally approved by society and peer groups. Generally characterized as social patterns and structures, these include education, employment, pop culture, religion, spirituality, and family. Those are the top categories of where we deal with this social conditioning, where people try and kind of tell us how we should live our lives.
Right.
Yeah. I got me a new notebook here, and it's not the greatest notebook. My pages are curling under because I write all over them. See, like all over the place. Social conditioning causes us to go with the herd, not challenge authority or to rock the boat. Causes us to believe what others tell them, like the media and our politicians and stuff like that. And it's also people that just want to shut up and blend in. They just kind of go with what everybody else is doing.
I think it also causes fear of being viewed as different.
Yes, absolutely it does.
And that's a really mixed message.
Yes.
It's strange because here we are all trying to, well, I mean, I guess some people are trying to blend.
Yeah.
But I feel like everybody's trying to, at the same time, do well.
Yeah.
And excel.
Yeah.
And succeed. Well, one guy's path isn't necessarily going to mean I'm going to succeed at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So being different isn't bad.
No, not at all. I prefer being different.
Yeah.
I don't want to blend in. I don't want to be like the sheep. You know, you hear, especially during the election, they talked a lot about, you know, being a sheep, you know, running with the sheep. And the thing is that both sides were doing this.
Yeah.
You got to think for yourself. You got to think, you know, what actually makes sense here. And that people weren't doing that. They were just going with, you know, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, so I'm going to go with this side. So no matter what side you're on, if you're just running with it, you're just going with the crowd. You're not thinking for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
As adults, we are given a set defined boundaries for ourselves, okay? There are things we refuse to do, and there are things that would never even cross our minds. Have you ever stopped to wonder why we have created these boundaries? Where did these boundaries come from? You know, you can go as extreme as saying murder. Murder's a boundary, and that's a great boundary to have. But it is set by society that that's something that you shouldn't do. You know, that's an extreme. Another one that I saw was like eating breakfast, like eating 3 meals a day. We're told that the best thing that we can do for our bodies is eat 3 meals a day. But that's not really for everybody. No. Everybody's body is different.
Right.
So breaking that societal norm kind of would be to, you know, break that up.
Right. Have
a juice cleanse, you know, do something that's abnormal. See how that makes you feel. That's kind of what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah. Almost all of us have fallen into the social conditioning trap to one degree or another. Even norms that are outdated, false, misleading, and do not align with the present world, we still tend to follow those. We still conform because that's what we're taught to do. You know, I hate to get religious, but this is a part of this episode because religion is one of the things that we conform to. But it's like there's some religions that no matter how much evidence we have that this is not what was actually said in the Bible, this is not how things are actually supposed to be, they don't want to admit to it. They're not willing to change because it means that they have to admit that they were wrong.
Right.
But what's wrong with that?
Right. What's
wrong with admitting that you were wrong so that you can change things and, you know, make things better?
Yeah.
Really?
Nothing.
No.
It's a very strange standard because there's not anything that flat out is telling you you need to do this.
Yeah.
It's by popular vote,
right,
almost, or popular opinion that these things are created. I'd say maybe religion is the one area where there is a lot of this being said that you should be this or
yes,
you know, do this.
Yes.
But as far as the outward, you know, the imagery of us as people and what we look like, those kind of social norms or that conditioning is a lot of just imagery.
Yeah.
You know, and
absolutely.
we get hung up on that.
We do.
Especially I feel bad for, you know, females in a lot of ways because of the amount of pressure that they probably feel like they're up against when you see magazines and, you know, Hollywood and all this and all that. And,
yeah, you
know, that's somebody else's life, whether
yes,
they're beautiful or not beautiful. That's not your life.
Right. Absolutely.
You have your life to tend to.
That's right.
And if you don't look like them and you don't act like them, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, it's not. We're socially conditioned, too, of what beautiful is when we all really have our own description of what beautiful is. You know, yeah. I'm 5 feet tall and I've never had really long hair because my hair is really thin. But I thought at one point I wanted to be a model, you know, and so I was working towards a goal that I was never going to meet because I can't make myself a foot taller. I can't, you know, you can add extensions and stuff, but I'm just not model quality. That's just not who I am, you know. Right. But we're taught that that's what society wants us to look like and what we're supposed to be like. So I spent, you know, a great part of my teenage years trying to fit into what I was supposed to look like when I never fit into that to begin with. Yeah. And that's what society does. Like, why? Where does it begin is the thing. And you know what? It begins right away. It begins when we're born, really. We're forced to adopt beliefs when we're born. we're given a name. We're given a religion. A lot of people are given a religion. We're given, a nationality, a race. We're given what we're supposed to be.
We're told what we are, yeah.
Exactly. So let's see. So talking about this on the children aspect, children are forced to adopt beliefs at a very young age. The brainwashing and social herding results in children growing up with adult behaviors, belief, actions, and emotions that have no logical motive.
Right.
This is beyond true, and it's really sad now for me at my age as a parent to look back and see this, because I realize that there's mistakes that I've made in this journey, because that's what I've been socially conditioned to do. And one of the biggest things that we need to do is break that. Like, one of the things that I read was telling our kids to grow up. Why are we telling our kids to grow up? Why are we telling a 7-year-old to grow up?
Right.
They're going to in their time, but they don't have the brain that adults have to grow up at this point. So why are we throwing those kinds of things out at them? That was a great point that I read.
Yeah, that is a good point.
Yeah. So the result is that there are way too many toxic people with unscientific ideals, toxic emotions, and unhealthy ideas and ineffective behavior.
I'm going to go as far as say it starts with the parents. It really does.
Oh, yes.
Because that's what a child sees, from day one.
Yep.
And, it's not like a parent shouldn't be proud of their beliefs in their life and what they've accomplished, right? Just like anybody should.
Yeah.
But there is a difference between sharing your experiences and your beliefs with your child than there is compared to shoving it down their throat,
right,
or demanding that they believe what you believe and that they have the same ideals, because then we're robbing people's individuality.
Yes.
And that's what's causing this, people being kind of screwed up.
Yes.
Because they're confused.
I talk a lot about my childhood and how kind of messed up it was. But at the same time, I'm really, really thankful for a lot of the things, because religion was not forced on me. I didn't even really know what religion was until I was in middle school, because I was thrown into a Lutheran middle school and was like, whoa, what is this? What are all these rules about? Why am I just now learning this? I appreciate that now, because I wasn't forced into something that I didn't want, Same with work. I've always looked at this as kind of a negative, but it actually, it turned out to work in my favor, was that I was never really told I was going to have to work when I got older, because none of the women in my family worked.
Yeah.
My grandfather pretty much supported everybody, or the women's husbands supported them. So I was never told, you're going to need to go to college. You're going to need to get a job. You're going to need to do these things. I decided my path because I wanted this path. I didn't want to go to college. I wasn't an academic. I wasn't an academic in elementary school. But they start forcing it on you at that point, too. And I think I have that later on in this episode, is that they start forcing schooling on you, and whether you're a good student or a bad student, and that sets the type of person that you are. Well, I was a bad student, but I had focus. I had focus in dance and in drama and in music. Those were my passions. And if they would have encouraged those passions, I could have started those earlier in my life. Right. But instead, they're pushing academics. Oh, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer or a scientist or whatever. But that's not who a lot of us are, So I'm very thankful that I don't have a lot of these social conditioning issues, that I'm very much a free spirit in these areas. I can't imagine having a religion that I felt like I had to stick with just because that's my family, they pushed me into that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about some of these different types of conditioning. So religious conditioning. Christianity is a good one to point out in this, because in a lot of branches of Christianity, baptism is done within the first year of birth. A child can't even talk yet, but they are choosing their religion. They're choosing to be baptized via their parents.
Right.
That child will be forced into other religious rituals, probably like Sunday school, attending church.
Right.
sometimes they even do this multiple days a week. These kids they go through this, their whole lives. They're taught to fear hell and punishments if they don't go with the way they're taught. I really didn't know much about religions like Mormons until I worked for one. And all of these rules, I was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
All these, you can't watch R-rated movies? Like, what? Why? Why can't you enjoy entertainment? You're going to go to hell if you don't.
Or you can't celebrate your birthday.
That's Jehovah's Witness. But yeah, they don't celebrate any holidays at all. It's just, I don't know. It's just very strange to me. I wish that we could do some kind of an experiment where we started like a colony of people who had kids and those kids weren't taught any of these things, and see what happens, how they turn out, what type of people they turn out at. Let them pick their religion, their sexual orientation, what they want to do for work for the rest of their lives, instead of society, even education, instead of society telling them what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. That would be a great experiment.
Yeah. I think it would make people very different if we could see how it would actually go. We've talked a little bit about this, but let's talk more about education. The sad truth is that we're taught from a young age that money and income potential is important, if not the most important thing to happiness. This begins as soon as a person starts to navigate their way through the educational system.
Yeah, I think this is a big farce kind of in society that's what will make you happy.
It is. And it's a trap. It's a lesson. It really is a lesson for all of us to learn that it's not about how much money you have, that it's really about how you feel inside. And money does not buy happiness, no matter how much you think it will. It just does not. So early on in their education, students are judged and identified as either being academically advanced, average, or below average. The teaching they received is based on these early judgments. The students will find themselves pigeonholed in a system that in reality is a form of educational discrimination. To try to prevent judgment of others, we are encouraged from an early age to be book smart and develop academic credentials. You have said to me so many times, I didn't go to college. I didn't go to college. I didn't go to college. And it's like, so what? That doesn't mean anything.
Right.
It really doesn't. We're told that it does. If you want to do something with your life, like be a lawyer or a doctor or something that requires a degree, then yes, college is going to be important to you. But like Marina, for example, since the time that you guys came into my life, she was talking about going to college. She wanted to be a forensic scientist. At 8 years old, she wanted to be a forensic scientist and was, the best college. Well, now she's really starting to understand herself better. And she's decided that college is important to her because she's an academic, but she wants to go to an art school most likely because that's where her passion is. We are totally for that. No matter what she would have decided, whether it's, an art school or a highly academic school, because that's what she wants to do with her life. Who are we to say, no, you should go to, that big college because you have straight A's, you should go to that school that the straight A kids go to. No.
Right.
She needs to do what she wants to do with her life. We don't really let our kids do that.
Yeah, it wouldn't be like, well, there's no money in art. Why? Why does money have to be the pinnacle of it, to base everything?
Right.
I would rather her see her happy above all else and maybe not filthy rich.
Right. You can make money at anything if you apply yourself to it. It doesn't matter the standard of the business itself because there's all kinds of, I remember when my ex-husband and I moved to Las Vegas, he wanted to be a bartender because he was like, there's so much money to be had in bartending. Well, yeah, there is. But just going to bartending school and getting your first bartending job is not going to bring that in.
No.
It takes time. It takes effort. So everything takes this. Everything, if you want to make money, you have to put the effort in.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean you have to get the best grades in school or you have to even go to college. You do you. Whatever it is about, your career. I love to dance. I was a dancer from the time I was really young, and I remember in high school, freshman year, I took this course on, career and whatnot, and they had us look up on the computer how much the salary for the job we wanted would pay, right? Well, at the time, I wanted to be a fly girl on In Living Color or a Laker girl. None of it went my way, but, for good reason. But anyway, so I look up what a typical dancer makes, and it was like $30,000 a year. And I was like, no.
Yeah.
To run my body into the ground? No. But that's just one area. Like, if I really wanted to be a dancer and try and go for things, that discouraged me.
Yeah.
Seeing how much work you have to put into something to make that little amount of money, that discouraged me. Would I have been happy as a dancer? Not happier than I am now, I don't think. But that's what I should have been focused on, is what would I be happy doing? Not how much money am I going to make doing this job.
Right.
Because that, again, that's not what buys your happiness.
Yeah.
It's not money. Okay, then let's also talk about the social conditioning of marriage and family. So most of us are taught that having a family, getting married, raising kids is some form of our social obligation. We're taught most relationships, especially the ones accepted by society, are between two members of different sexes. And those who don't want kids are in the LGBT plus community or aren't seeking a monogamous relationship are made to feel that they are doing something wrong or against the ideal. Mm-hmm. The monogamous family life represents stability, support, and bizarrely social success. Right. But I will tell you that doing this research, 50% of marriages end in divorce. Mm-hmm. Why? Because ideals are forced on us. Yeah. This was another area for me that nobody was going to force it on me. Like, my mom, as soon as I got engaged to my first husband, was like, so when am I getting grandkids? Well, you're not. You can have grand dogs and grand ferrets and grand birds. And that's what she got. And she started, I was 19 years old. Wow. And she started asking me when she was getting grandkids. And I told her, I'm like, I'm not going to cave on this. Like, right. This is just the way that my life is going to go. I just know that. And I got asked that a lot throughout my life. Yeah. I'm now a stepmom, and that works for me. Being a biological mother of an infant, a child that came from me, was not what I wanted to do with my life. It just wasn't. But people don't understand that. They don't understand that there's different types of people, and not everyone wants what other people have. One of my best friends is single, and she's my age, and she is happy that way, and she will probably stay that way because that is just what makes her life happy. And there's nothing wrong with that. She's chosen to step outside of that norm. I actually put a quiz up, not a quiz, but a poll up for our listeners, and asked what areas of their lives they had chosen to go outside of the social norms. And she chose family because she even recognized that this is the way that I chose to go. Even though people go, you're not married? You're in your 40s. You're not married. You've never had kids. What's wrong with you? Well, nothing. Right. This is just the way I choose to live my life. What's wrong with that?
Right.
So even like when you think about this, our physical attraction can sometimes be swayed by outside sources.
Oh yeah.
Like, I've always been chubby, and I'm sure that there's guys that didn't date me not because they didn't think that I was attractive as being chubby, but because of what they were afraid society was going to think about that. Especially when we were younger, it's much more accepted now. Like, the body shaming is totally different. But, we all have those things that we fall into that we feel like we didn't set up to society's expectations, right. Or maybe that's not what we want,
That's true. That's a big one, too.
Yeah. Like, even if you think about it, like, a lot of people would be like, a woman being older than a man and them marrying is weird. Like, if you're married, a man is married to a woman that's like, 10 years older than him, right. that maybe that's weird. Why? Yeah. What's wrong with that? If you're attracted to that person, what is wrong with that? That person that's judging does not have to live your life. You're living your life. So why are we so quick to be like, oh, well, they're right. Right. This is weird. I shouldn't live like that. Even though that's the way that we want to live. Mm-hmm. We're letting society control our lives.
Yep.
Dumb. So I asked our listeners, like I said, in what areas do you feel that you've chosen a path different than what society preaches? And most of the people that took this said that religion, that they have definitely chosen religion to step outside. And these are our listeners, so of course, that doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah.
The second one was employment, and then spirituality, education, family, and sexuality. I want to read what a couple of our listeners put for you. Okay, so Cassie said, I selected religion because I grew up raised in a certain faith that I no longer practice. Employment because I'm tired of working 50 hours a week. I need to find something else. I need to have a job so I can live my life the way I want, but the job I have now is my life because they are working me to the ground. Time to start researching alternatives. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the universe wants us to do that. They want us to not feel like we have to fit into this 9 to 5, Monday through Friday type life, or we have to work at the bottom and work our way up.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way. You're a great example of that because you were taught your whole life that you had to have this job that, brought home this steady paycheck. And you finally were able to step outside of that. And that's scary.
Very. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one that, not even, it even goes beyond your parents, that as soon as you step into school,
Yep.
you're being kind of told that.
Yep, exactly.
And so it's kind of terrifying when you sort of feel like, wow, the things I excel at, like art and music, and as far as society was concerned, you cannot get by.
Right.
That's not going to do it. So you've got to have these academics, which they are important. I need to learn how to write and read
Yeah.
and do arithmetic and stuff like that. But at the same, and some history is important, I think. Maybe more so for the sake of not repeating it.
Right.
Not to mull it over, but more so I know certain things happened that maybe mankind shouldn't revisit. But I still felt walking out of school each day kind of inadequate.
Yes.
Because I wasn't like the norm.
Right.
I wasn't interested in joining the football team. I didn't want to go to rallies. I didn't go to dances. I didn't go to my prom. I never went to a winter formal. But I wasn't reclusive. I had a lot of friends and I was social. I wasn't interested. That stuff didn't intrigue me. It didn't keep my attention.
Too, yeah.
So I had a problem with it.
Yep.
I struggled with it. But everything that I am good at now is what I excelled at then.
Yeah.
And I just wish that there would have been more of society's kind of support of nurturing that.
Yes.
In children, going, okay, we see this kid isn't super great at math and science, but he's great at this. What can we do with that?
Yes.
We need to get back to individual people as opposed to let's all, send them to boot camp and get them all primed and pramped for this.
Yes.
Well, this doesn't necessarily fit for everybody.
That's right.
What about that? We're forgetting about that. There's this, but what about that? So,
absolutely.
It's it is a good example. I mean, I'm very fortunate in how I landed.
Yeah.
On my own feet on this one because I kind of felt like I was going to crash into the ground, but
yeah.
In some strange way, when you're talking, I feel like that's part of this world. Why we choose to come here from heaven, where we start.
Yeah.
We choose to come here because we know it is a world and a reality of lesson.
Yeah.
And there's so many lessons wrapped up in every single little thing so many that you go right over your head and you miss the first 1,000 times and then you see it.
Yep.
But there are so many lessons. And I honestly believe that part of this is we're going to throw you in this pond and see, what do you do?
Right.
Do you sink or swim? And if you swim, do you swim alone or do you swim with the school?
Right.
It's And there is no right or wrong. There are certain things that I would say are wrong, like murder. You shouldn't do that,
Right.
you know? And you shouldn't steal stuff that's not yours.
Right.
But for the most part in your life choices of what your sexuality is and what you want to be referred to as and what your dreams for education and then employment and what you believe in as far as any kind of faith, that should be all on our own individual choice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think about this, and I see things that come up on Facebook that other people think about this. Most of what we learned in like elementary school, with the exception of, you know, how to read, how to write, how to do basic math, we've probably forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's just, you know, stuff that we really don't even need to learn unless that's what you want to go into and do in your life, you know? But like, I went to private schools and it was, you know, your basic curriculum, right? But I also was offered things like dance and drama and chorus and all of that. So I did all of those things, all those. But they were used as a tool, as a bargaining tool for me to get my schoolwork done. Because unless my schoolwork was done, I couldn't participate in those activities, according to my school. This was not according to my mother. This was according to the school. So if I wasn't doing good in school, they would take those things away from me.
Right.
That didn't really give me a lot of incentive because I was who I was and I wasn't good at school. I just wasn't. And if they would have taken recognition in that and said, you know, okay, this girl is focused on drama and dance and those things, if we put that into the curriculum, maybe it will make her learn more. Now, I'm not saying they should have catered to me. What I'm saying is this is the type of thing that we should be doing. We should be allowing our kids to choose their path. Are they good at math? Marina's really good at math. So yeah, let them, take high advanced math. But don't expect that somebody that's not good at it is going to be able to take algebra and excel at that. Like, I failed algebra several times. Not my thing. Right. Where I aced art and dance and, all that. So we need to learn to adjust, like you were saying, to what our children like and what they need and who they want to be instead of just shoving down their throats. I went to a Catholic high school that made us learn religion. One of our classes, one of the 6 periods was religion every single day.
Yeah.
But, the things that actually mattered, those things weren't taught.
Right.
So
it's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. Let me get to the next one. This is from Shauna. She said, I selected all of them because I definitely don't meet society's standards for any of it. I'm currently learning that we're not working our asses off, and that we miss out on so much. That's exactly right. Like, if you're working to live, basically, or am I putting it the right way? If you're just work all the time and you're not enjoying your life, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a job that you hate, you're doing something wrong. Mm-hmm. You should be enjoying your life and enjoying what you do. And then people say, I don't know how to do that, or I can't do that. Yes, you can. Mm-hmm. Don't ever say can't, because anything is possible. You just have to believe, and you have to stop listening to society telling you that you can't.
Right.
Because I can sit here and you can sit here and we can do this show and tell people not to listen to society, and they get that in their heads, and then one person comes at them and says that they're not doing the right thing, and they totally let it go.
Yeah.
You have to work at this, know, you have to want this, and you can't listen to what the outside is telling you that, oh, that's wrong. Oh, that's wrong. Right. If you feel it in your heart, it's not wrong.
No. I mean, that's like Walt Disney's a great example of that. How many times he just turned down, and how many people he told him, that he was insane.
You're never going to make money on a mouse. Yeah.
Yeah. And all the money that he owed and was shoveling out to make this happen because he couldn't let it go. He knew that I've got to do this. I've got to do it for, I think he thought it was for him and maybe his family.
Right.
But and I know he knew it was going to touch people, but I don't really think he understood just how much it was going to touch people, but that's why he was so driven.
Right. Yeah.
Because the universe was telling him, you have to do this.
Right.
It's going to be hard, and it's going to be scary, and people are going to tell you you're nuts.
Yep.
and you're going to get turned down a lot. But you cannot give up on this because it's going to make a difference in somebody's life, whether you end up knowing them or you don't.
Right.
You're going to make a difference, and we all make a difference in each other's lives. We have impact. We have that capability to impact each other's lives.
Absolutely, we do.
And that goes for religion, social media, media in general, our perception of what we think is right, wrong, good, bad, ugly, and different. This is all part of it.
Yep.
And it has been going on for a long time.
Yep.
Society's ideals kind of being forced upon us before there was ever newspapers and magazines. And there was always something that, whether it was your stature or something that showed I'm where everybody else should be, or you should be like me, it's part of the test. It is part of the test to go, do you follow?
Yes.
Or do you do what your heart is telling you to do?
I still have a hard time accepting the fact that it is okay for me to do the job that I do, because I don't have to work as much as a lot of people do to make the money that they do. But this is the route that I've chosen. I worked hard to get here. I did not just fall into this. So my work has paid off, but I still feel guilty for that a lot of the times. I chose at a very young age that I was not going to follow the crowd and I was not going to work 9 to 5. I tried. It did not work for me. I would have been absolutely miserable. So I started my first pet sitting business when I was 22 years old, and I did pet sitting for 20 years. Yeah. And it was hard work, but I worked for myself and I loved it. And I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that I took that leap of faith, because I had a very close friend even that told me, you're not going to make money at pet sitting. You're crazy. How do you think that that's going to happen? Well, that made me to go, watch me do it. You think I can't do it? Watch me. That's what the universe wants us to do. You say I can't do this? Oh, sure I can.
Accept the challenge,
Yep, exactly.
Try to do it your way.
Yep.
Almost. If your way is coming from a good place.
Absolutely.
If you're trying to scam people to get money so you don't have to work, or steal or rob or whatever it is, manipulate, then no, most likely karma's going to catch up.
Yes.
It always does.
Yes, if you're doing those types of things.
But if you're looking for a way out to better yourself in your life, and it's coming from a pure place that isn't seeking any of those kind of actions, you will succeed.
Yeah.
And unlike you, I did follow that path of 9 to 5, or, that 8 to 10 hour, trying to make myself fit into this mold that I just didn't belong.
Yep.
And I was miserable by the end.
Yep.
Just miserable.
Yeah.
And I couldn't ever imagine, and I hope and pray I don't ever have to go back to that, because I can't imagine it.
Yeah. I try and encourage people in my life as much as possible to follow their dreams, and if that means working for themselves, that's what they do. And a lot of times people think that I'm absolutely crazy when I say that. But the thing is that, like you, especially, you have two amazing talents that you can make money at. You don't have to work for the man. You don't have to make somebody else rich. You can make yourself rich. You know what I mean? That we're too focused on making money for people that don't matter instead of making it for ourselves.
Exactly.
We're all given talents, all of us. And those talents are what the universe wants us to build our career off of, period.
And, we could fall into that, like tomorrow.
Yeah.
We could go, we've lost the faith, we've lost the hope, none of this is working, it's not going to go anywhere. Guess what? You're going to go look for a job, and I'm going to go look for a job, and we're going to be miserable for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
But that could happen. But I really don't think it's ever going to happen for us.
Yeah.
However, I know, that there are people out there, whether they don't know us or they do know us, that think it's insane.
Right. That we're totally nuts.
Like, what are you doing?
Right.
We're living because, as far as I'm concerned, this is only this life I get.
Exactly.
Okay? And I want to enjoy this one. Because I don't know what the next one's going to be like.
Yeah.
And I sure don't want to set myself up for any more lessons in the next life
Me too.
that are unnecessary.
Yeah.
So instead of beating myself up for all the shit I've done in the past, I've just sort of decided I've got to move on. I have to leave that where it was, and I've got to move on and try to now take from here on
Right.
and do it different.
Right.
Because I tried it every other way that was suggested and shown to me, and it didn't work.
Right.
Just didn't work.
Yep.
Then I was shown a different way, you know?
Yeah.
Thankfully, because of you, I was shown a different way. And I'm like, wow, how did I ignore that my whole life? A lot of things have had to happen in order for me to get to this place.
Yes.
So I couldn't have maybe done it back then.
Right.
However, maybe if I believed back then more based on what society was telling me,
Yeah.
maybe I would have been there.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know.
Yep.
We just don't ever know all the whys, but you will eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? This is a great area to talk about relationships too, because a lot of us try and force relationships that aren't meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
And before Danny and I reconnected and started dating, I dated a lot of people. And one of the things, actually, I even heard this from you at the beginning. One of the things that always came up was my work. What are you going to do for work when you're done taking care of your grandma? Because she's not going to live forever. But for me, making money has never been a problem because I'm just one of those people that I can make money in totally random ways.
Yeah, you can.
And so I never worried about it. So I needed somebody that could be with me, that could understand that and not look at it as a negative, that could actually look at it as a positive of that I can make enough money for us to survive and we can have a life and travel and do the things we want to do instead of feeling like we have to be tied down and working a 9-to-5 job. I didn't want that,
right.
You know? So finding somebody that understands you and that fits your personality is a whole other part of this social conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're conditioned to be, you know, with this person that maybe they make a lot of money or whatever their high up status or whatever it is that society thinks you should be with one person. But you need to be with the person that makes you happy and that understands you the best.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who society thinks that you should be with or what it looks like. You know, There's too many people that stay with somebody because of what it looks like. It's their status. It's what they look like to people.
Yeah.
You know,
we all need to be nurtured, whether it's as a child or as an adult.
Yeah.
Finding somebody that will do that with you together, meaning nurturing each other's likes, dreams, passions, goals. When you do that for each other, you see them happen.
Yes.
But when one is sitting jealous or envious of the other, it just sits stagnant.
Yes.
And it doesn't move.
Yeah, there shouldn't be jealousy.
No, it should be you got your thing, I got mine,
Right.
and then we come back together.
And we both succeed. And,
Right.
you know, if one succeeds more, that's fine because you're a team, you're a pair. There shouldn't be jealousy there. You should want to see the other person succeed. That's another part of life that's kind of seems ridiculous to me is why don't more people want to see other people succeed? Like, I want to see everybody succeed. There's enough success in this world for all of us.
Oh,
you know?
plenty.
Absolutely. So we have a few minutes. I just want to do this real quick. How do we change? How do we get away from this social conditioning? So in some cases, simply identifying the incorrect behavior is enough, but it might take a while for the influence of the conditioning to end. So you may just see I'll just throw out racism, that you may see some racial tendencies just because of how you were brought up. And you say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to think that way anymore. But a lot of times it comes back because that's how you were raised. That's what you were taught. So every time it comes back, you have to push it out. So wanting to change and accepting that is one part, but then continuing to work on it and pushing it out of your head is another part of it.
Yeah.
Decreasing your exposure to bad social situations and toxic environments such as media, bad friendships, church, etc. Anything that makes you feel like what you're doing is wrong. I have a friend who is in the energy field, and she's also very religious, and her religion, her church told her that her work is wrong. And that's got to be really difficult.
Yeah, that sucks.
Yeah, because there's no reason why spiritualism and religion can't mix. There really isn't. In some cases, you may have been exposed to certain ideals so many times, so now your brain is just programmed. So you have to reprogram, and that takes time and patience and involves deep introspection and making it a point to practice a better way of thinking and of thinking on purpose. Mm-hmm. That's hard. You got to stop yourself. You literally have to stop yourself when you're thinking something negative and change it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But that's how... Just like we were trained from a young age on all these thoughts and ideals,
yeah,
you have to train your mind the other way.
Yeah.
If you don't agree with what you were taught, then you have to work at training your mind differently. The problem is you don't really remember being trained earlier.
Right.
Because you're so young, but you were trained.
Yep.
And it probably was frustrating at times as a little kid.
Yes. Absolutely.
Being like, I didn't follow the rule, or that's not what my parent wanted me to say or think, or whatever. You have to put in the work.
Yep.
It's you. It's your life. It's your soul. It's your inner peace, your health. It's everything.
Yep.
So you nobody's going to do it for us.
No. And it is hard.
It's hard.
It is very hard to change a pattern, but it can be done. Mm-hmm. Absolutely can be.
Sure.
And then the last thing I have is overcoming social conditioning involves not assuming that you are above it, being reflective, being critical when listening to others, and being open to change. Change is uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable, but it is one of the most important things in our life because change gets us from A to B to C to D. It moves us along, and if we resist that change, we don't get anywhere. So if you see these things about yourself that you're like, I'm not happy living this part of my life because other people are telling me that this is how I should live, then you should change it.
Yeah.
And I know that it may sound easier said than done. It's not going to happen overnight. We all want a quick fix. Like this is, I've always was like this with weight loss. I'm going to eat healthy for 2 days and I should lose 20 pounds doing that. No, it takes time. Everything takes time. But that's all we have. All we have is time. So saying that, it takes too much time to do this, that's just a cop-out.
Yeah.
Because that's all you have is time. Yes, we have to work and we have families and we have things we have to do. But you can still work on you just off of the way that you respond to things, just off of the way that you think. You can change these things simply just by changing your thoughts.
Yeah.
You don't have to sit there, for hours a day thinking about how you're going to change. You just have to do it when it comes the time to be faced with that situation.
Yeah.
That's all. So there is my episode for you.
I love it. Thank you.
Yes, that was good, huh?
Very cool.
Yeah, I like to talk about it because I really think that this is one of the reasons why they brought us to this podcast is because I really have not ever lived up to these social conditions. I never have. And so for me, it's like, whoa, people do live this way. So hopefully I can help people to not live that way, to think outside the box and to, enjoy their lives more.
Yeah.
And you as well. Because, that's what we're here for.
For sure.
Yes.
Proud to be a part of it.
Me too.
Killer.
Hey.
Well, before we say goodbye, would you like to share your page?
Yes, you can find me at SamanthaJonesPsychicMedium.com. If you would like to reach us at the show to send us show ideas or your questions or comments, whatever, spiritualjoneses@gmail.com.
Very good.
And you?
Yes, for my art, djonesartcollection.com for the web, at djonesartcollection for Instagram and Facebook. And for the music, gypsybrown.com for the web, and at Gypsy Brown Music for Instagram, at Gypsy Brown Band for Facebook.
Yay.
That's it for me.
Fantastic.
Well, we hope everybody got something out of this week.
Yes, we do.
I did. Thanks, babe.
You're welcome. I did too.
And we hope everybody has a great week.
We do.
Until next week, peace and love.